Winter is coming, so is generational trauma. Wind howls, metal clashes, a wolf cries out, you open your eyes to a frozen battlefield, bodies, blood, banners shredded by the wind, yours among them. You're dying again. But let's rewind, because this isn't even the first time your family's been torn apart by honor, ice, and very bad luck. It's just, what happens when you're born a Stark? You're born cold, not metaphorically, like your first breath literally crystallizes midair. Somewhere outside, a direwolf howls. Inside, your mother screams through a medieval labor without anesthesia, while your father watches solemnly, sword at his side like he's expecting the Night King to crash the delivery. Welcome to Winterfell. Population, grumpy northern nobles, 1,000 ravens, and you, a screaming, wriggling burrito of noble blood and pre-installed emotional repression. There's no soft music, no glowing fireplace, just stone walls, stale meat, and someone yelling boil more water, even though no one ever uses it. Your first blanket is scratchy wool, your crib, hand-me-down pine, carved by a bannerman who probably died in the last war. And that lullaby your wet nurse hums, something about the long night and how all men must die. Yeah, sleep tight, little Stark. You're the product of 1,000 years of frostbite and feuds. A bloodline so ancient it probably predates the concept of heating. People look at you like you're not a baby, but a legacy with a pulse. An heir to old gods, old grudges, and even older responsibilities. You're not allowed to just exist. You have to represent. By the time you're toddling, you've already learned 3 things. Never trust anything south of Moat Cailin. Don't pet the wolves unless they pet you first. And winter is always coming. Your toys are carved animals and tiny wooden swords. You try to build a snowman once, but your septa tells you to stop wasting time on folly and recite the names of every Stark who died in the last rebellion. You're 5. The first time you smile, your tutor accuses you of showing weakness. The first time you cry, your uncle gives you a speech about Cregan Stark and how he never cried, not even when frostbitten men screamed in his arms. You're trained to ride before you can read, to shoot before you can write. Your direwolf pup bonds to you early, sensing that shared inner monologue of brooding and destiny. You name it something deep and tragic, like Shadowfang or Gloom. By the age of 8, you've watched your father execute a deserter, sat through 12 political dinners with men who reek of goat, and started your first lesson in how to die with dignity. You're not just a Stark, you're a Stark in training. And winter? Yeah, it's basically your babysitter. You don't pick your family, but if you did, you probably wouldn't choose the walking embodiment of noble suffering and generational trauma. Because the thing about being a Stark is, you're all cursed. Not like, oh no, we can't find love. Cursed. Number like prophetic wolves and heads on spikes. Cursed. Old magic. Old gods. Old grudges. You've inherited all of it like an emotionally haunted sword. Let's talk about your dad. Ned Stark, capital H, honorable. A man so allergic to lying, he'd rather decapitate himself with a butter knife than bend the truth. He thinks if he just lives by a strict moral code and clenches his jaw hard enough, the world will follow suit. Spoiler, it won't. He tries to play the Game of Thrones with the dignity of a man politely declining a strip club invitation, and it ends exactly how you'd expect. Him kneeling in the mud, head removed by politics and poetic irony. You watch it happen, not from behind a curtain, not as a whispered rumor, but with your own wide, innocent eyes, as the man who raised you on bedtime stories about doing the right thing gets publicly executed for doing the right thing. And that is just the start, because your family doesn't break, it shatters. Your siblings scatter like dice thrown by a drunk god. Rob, your big brother, tries to wear your dad's honor like an ill-fitting cloak, becomes king, marries for love, forgets to RSVP a wedding properly. Result, death by violin and betrayal. Oh, and your mom dies too, but not before being so emotionally exhausted she stops blinking. Sansa walks straight into a royal hostage situation and then spends the next few seasons being emotionally waterboarded by the worst men alive, all while learning the most important lesson a Stark can. No one is coming to save you. You save yourself. Arya, well, she becomes a face-stealing, death-whispering ghost assassin with a kill list longer than your family tree. She used to chase cats. Now she stabs people for blinking wrong. Bran falls out a window, goes on a spirit quest, and eventually downloads the entire internet into his brain. Loses all emotional capacity but gains birds. So, trade-off. Rickon just doesn't zigzag. We don't talk about Riken. And you're watching all of this unfold like the lone sane person in a family-wide fever dream. Except sanity doesn't help much when half your bloodline is dead and the other half is playing psychic chess with tree people. And still, you all keep going. You keep believing in family, in loyalty, in home, even as the world burns your house, your friends, and your optimism to ash. You carry the Stark name like a weight, like a brand, like a funeral dirge played on repeat. Why? Because that's the value you inherited. Not money, not glory, just resilience wrapped in sadness, gift wrapped with frost. Starks don't survive because they're the strongest. They survive because they're too damn stubborn to die. Winter. They drilled it into your head since before you had teeth. It was the family bedtime story, the seasonal depression anthem, the one thing more inevitable than death or taxes in Westeros. But you thought it was a metaphor, a vibe, a mildly threatening weather forecast. You didn't realize it would come with zombie dragons and ice wizards. At first it's just cold, then it's cold and dark, then it's cold, dark, and full of corpses that refuse to stay dead. And just when you think you've adjusted, boom, your ex-girlfriend flies in on a dragon and lights everything on fire because politics made her sad. You don't even flinch. You've developed a sort of emotional callus by now. Because here's the real truth no one tells you about being a Stark. It's not about whether winter comes. It's about what it takes from you when it does. Your sense of safety? Gone. Your childhood home? Burned. Your trust in other humans? Let's not even go there. You walk through these cold, blood-soaked years like a ghost wearing armor. You try to lead. You try to love. You try to stay alive. And every time you let someone in, they die, betray you, or start screaming about destiny. And yet, you still try, because you think there's still something worth saving. You believe in something stupid, like people, or truth, or your family, what's left of it. Even when you die, yeah, that happens, you come back. And does the world thank you? Number. It just hands you another war, another broken alliance, and a new existential crisis to unpack at 3 a.m. There's a moment, quiet, brutal, when you stand on a frozen field of corpses, blood still steaming in the snow, and you realize you've become your father, not in the noble, romantic way, in the haunted, hollowed out by duty way, the kind of man who doesn't celebrate victory because every win comes drenched in loss. And just when you think you've hit rock bottom, they offer you a crown. And it's not relief, it's dread, because now you have to pretend you want it. Pretend to rule people who've never seen your nightmares, who still think you're just a quiet guy with good hair and a noble jawline. You don't want to be king, you want peace. But peace isn't for Starks. Peace is for people who don't carry ancient blood feuds in their DNA. Peace is for soft southern houses with fruit and sunshine and zero undead ice armies. For you, it's just snow. Snow and sacrifice. Snow and screaming. Snow and, well, you. Because by now, you don't know if you're surviving winter or if winter is surviving through you. Here's the thing, you don't really get an ending, not a clean one, not the kind with swelling music and a slow fade to black. Number, you're a Stark. You get quiet, frostbitten closure. You survive, but that's not the same as peace. You win, but it tastes like ash. You finally outrun the apocalypse, only to find it waiting for you inside your own head. Maybe you're sitting on a boat headed nowhere, exiled for doing the right thing at the wrong time. Maybe you're perched on a broken throne, ruling over people who still don't understand how much you lost to get there. Or maybe you're wheeled into council meetings with that faraway three-eyed I see all stare and no memory of what joy feels like. None of it feels like justice, just what was left? You're not the chosen one. You're not the hero in shining armor. You're the one who endures after the story's end. The one who remembers, who buries the dead, who watches the seasons change and wonders if anything ever really did. You think about your father's voice in the Godswood, the smell of snow on fur, the laughter of siblings before the world turned sharp and red. And you wonder, was this your purpose all along? To carry the weight? To outlive the war? To stand among the ruins and whisper, "We were here"? It's not fair, but it is Stark, because endings are for other houses, the ones with weddings, with retirements, with full circle peace arcs and closure tied in gold ribbon. Starks don't get that. You get the long watch, you get the cold wind, you get silence, and maybe a direwolf at your side if the gods are kind. And yet, Through all the loss, the grief, the aching snowbound silence, you're still standing, not victorious, not healed, just present, breathing, enduring, like a root in permafrost, like the last note of a dirge that refuses to fade. You are ice carved into a person, a ghost of old honor in a kingdom of lies, a child of winter walking through fire. You are the heart that doesn't stop beating, even when the world does. And that sucks, but it also means you're still here. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. Your whole damn family motto, probably written in blood.